welcome to the Source podcast. Welcome, Andrew. You are my official podcast guest ever, as I've never recorded one of this before. But I was very keen to have you on the podcast as a first guest because I've known you for a very long time and we did meet through research, and you have been the first institutional adoption. I know you're only one man, but we like to refer to you as an institution.
It's fine.
Right? So I'm very excited you've joined us for this conversation. Give us a bit of background. Introduce yourself to our listeners.
Sure. Hi. My name is Andrew Smart. I'm managing director of a company known as A.C. Cooper, and that company has been around for 107 odd years. Initially set up by Augustus Cooper in London to photograph works of art from various, galleries, dealers, museums, institutions, etc. And that company was owned by the family right through to sort of the late 60s when Augustus Cooper died, and then it was basically sold on through to the employees one after the other. I'm the sort of the latest Doctor Who of that reincarnation version. And I've been so for 20 plus years.
So you acquired the archive over 20 years ago.
Yeah, 2003. My wife and I bought the company. It was offered to us by the previous director.
Yeah.
And so we bought it and sort of introduced things like digital photography into it and things like that, which was in its infancy in 2003. And obviously with that came, what we know as the archive.
Were you always into photography? Has that always been your career?
Yeah, right from an early age. I was quite fortunate to kind of, I don't know, sort of maybe just sort of realize that was what I liked. I mean, I was really keen on art. Art was a big thing, but more towards sort of the graphic side of art rather than fine art was my kind of forte, I suppose. So yeah, then obviously from that led into photography. I was lucky to get to have a photography sort of lesson in my secondary school when they sort of introduced us. And then I took on a work experience job at the age of 14 in a photographic studio in Covent Garden.
Different time.
Different time, yeah, very different time. So was that about 1980, in mid 80s? We'll say the mid 80s, and it was a different time.
It's great, isn't it? I mean, I meet so many people that their career has been defined by these apprenticeships they were offered quite early in life, and that that they were expired by, and nowadays it's so hard as a 14-year-old to get an apprenticeship or get any work experience because there's so much regulation and things have become a lot less flexible to our detriment, I think.
You're absolutely right. I mean, myself, as an employer of staff, I had the same issues, and I wanted to bring sort of young people in and sort of help to train them, which we did to a degree. But as we go further on down the line, when legislation really kicked in, it became really difficult to try and give like a 16-year-old a chance, like a work experience placement, because there was so much red tape, and it's like I can't put myself through this, I'm afraid, which is a real pity. I hope it gets back to how it was somehow eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had on the odd occasion about in the close to 10 years, Tom and I have been around with Flynn and Giovanni doing research. I think we've had like 3 or 4 GCSE students who want to intern and get research experience. And you can sort of guide them in the right direction and have them do something to just pique their interest. But we would not be able to offer them an official proper internship, which is a pity. But back to you. So you bought the company and the archive came with the company.
Yeah, essentially. So I suppose what happened was, because we've sort of moved around quite a few times, we moved the business a number of times, but obviously, like everything, you accumulate things as you go. 107-year history. It's not surprising we've accumulated sort of quite a bit of material, but really it's, it varies. It's such a mix of stuff, and it wasn't really thought of as an archive. Nowadays, I think archivists or people just treat archives differently to the way they did. And when you go to an institution, I don't know, like the Royal Institute of British Architects or something like that, or even the Royal Photographic Society, and you look back at how things were archived back, very early on, and it was, now you just wouldn't do it these days. You wouldn't do it the same way.
Yeah.
So when we acquired the business, we bought the business, we sort of realized that, what are we going to do with this? Okay, there's a cat entering the room. So yeah, when we bought the business, we realized, There they are.
Uh,
Good luck, Tom. Oh, no, no. So we started to I tried to sort of figure out what it was that we had and then try and make sense of it and also try to sort of look into it. I mean, I haven't got any sort of background in being an archivist, but I went to a couple of seminars and I sort of researched copyright a little bit more, and
yeah.
I thought, oh, yeah, okay, this is something we need to try and keep or organize better than it is at the moment. It's just, in drawers and all over the place. So try to sort of understand it, but it's a big undertaking, particularly as you're trying to run a business with staff and everything else.
So walk us through what is in the archive. What do you have?
Okay, I suppose. I mean, again, it's a whole mix of stuff. It varies from, the ledgers, which I did bring. I just grabbed one on the way in quickly, just
And
to show you. So, these are the ledgers, or one of many ledgers. One's from 1953, I think it is, and within it, is contained entries of the time from what came into the studio, who commissioned us, date, obviously,
mhm,
maybe a brief outline of what the piece was. Sometimes you get a better description of what the piece was and on what the order was. So, had black and white or how many prints or whatever. It gives us a little snapshot of what was in the studio at that time. So we've got, I don't know, 50 plus of those, 50 plus. Yeah, right. I think I actually done a spreadsheet. I should remember this.
yes.
Teresa's done one. And then on top of that, you've got things like within that, which you find, things like notes inside, little clever little, I don't know, sort of purchase orders and things like that. There's one from the National Portrait Gallery, for instance.
Right.
So things like that, they just appear in between pieces of
Interesting.
3 pages. So that's the stuff that is, sort of quite complicated to find because you've got to go through every single page. And then we have things like price lists and things like that relate to the business in terms of, sort of letterheads and what have you. But then we've also got a mix of negatives. We've got a mix of black and white and color, transparencies, a few transparencies here and there dotted about. So it's not comprehensive. It's not complete,
Yeah.
but it's something. It's something that's better than nothing, I think.
No,
And
it's very valuable. I mean, I think of all the times I've come to you for research, I think only once you had nothing on something. Every
yeah,
other time there's been some sort of information as to even the period. I mean, I came with you with the code behind a picture, which is what led me to you. I was looking at some photographs taken by your studio, and they were at the library back when you could physically access it.
yeah, yeah,
And I hadn't heard of A.C. Cooper before. So I thought, I mean, I'm going to have a look and see where the archives are kept, because that's how researchers think. You think maybe there's an archive of this person or this business or this gallery somewhere that I can access. And if you can't, then you try to reach to people who might be related to the business or descendants of, if it's a
yeah, yeah.
family. And I thought, oh, they're still around. Oh,
I,
they're very much active. I am in luck. I mean, I was really excited. And yeah, you had so much information. And I remember what it was. I think it was a few paintings. It was a couple paintings by Murillo
yeah,
that had been in a collection of Dr. Alfred Schwarf, who had come from Germany to Britain in the 90s, I believe.
that's right.
And he had photographed his collection and bequeathed it to the Wit, to the Courtauld, and it had ended up in the Wit archive, and there was your stamp in the back. There was a reference number, which I thought it's either like an internal referencing number of his collection, or it has to do with the photography number.
Yeah, yeah,
And there was also handwriting on top, which said Murillo, and then the title. And that was a different handwriting, very obviously from the
yeah,
number code.
yes, yeah.
And you were very kindly, you were able to kind of narrow it down for me when. And after that, I don't know if I ever told you, I did manage to reach out to his daughter,
Okay.
who
Yeah.
saw the picture, and he said, "Oh, that is his handwriting on the title."
Oh, brilliant.
Uh,
Fantastic.
which was really sweet.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great story. So she was very excited to see it, and she remembered the picture, and she said, and that's undoubtedly my father's handwriting on the top, which is
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of inquiries where someone might just send me, a photograph from a book,
mm,
this published in whatever. Can you tell me all about it? I'm like, no, I can't.
yeah.
So nothing that isn't already in the book. So,
Yeah.
with you, when you came to me with a print. And there are so many prints out there, bearing in mind how prolific the business was. It isn't so much these days, but when it was, I mean, I think Augustus was the only person doing this sort of photography in London at the time. There wasn't many fine art photographers, let alone studios around. And of
Yeah.
course, he was also associated with the auction houses. And so there was an awful lot of prints being generated, a lot of work being generated, hundreds of thousands, that many. And they were just thrown to the four corners of the planet. So they appear, and quite often they're the ones that the gold dust, because I know what's on the back, and then I can usually make sense of what's on the back. And I had an inquiry not that long ago from Italy from an archivist who had found the stamp on the back, the ink stamp, which said A.C. Cooper and Sons photographers, and then she sort of tracked me down through Google or whatever, because we still have the same name, obviously, accooper.com. And she tracked me down, and I said, well, if you just look to the left of that, you'll probably find in pencil handwritten number. They couldn't see anything. I asked them to scan it at low, they sent me a low res, and I just managed to make out something.
Mm.
Pencil rubbed so much. But of course, when they looked at it firsthand, they could sort of decipher what it was straight away. I was like, okay, we can find that in our ledgers. And I did. So it
Yeah.
can be a bit painstaking. It's a manual search, and it's just me essentially doing it because, in my history of it, I kind of know what I'm looking for, but it really works. But that is the gold dust. The negative number on the back of the print is.
Yeah, for sure. Did he? So he had. I know from looking at various ink stamps that the location changed around London a few times. So were the artworks being delivered to the studio to be photographed, or did he also go out on location with his camera to take pictures?
So it's both. It was both. In the old ledgers, there are, again, I managed to decipher that there was sort of a shorthand which would say, photographed at, say, Lancashire Court. So
Mm.
Lancashire Court, our studios, would it just be sort of at LC or whatever? So sometimes it would tell us if it was photographed in the studio, or on, but yeah, he would go to places as well, as I do, as all photographers who've been through the business have done, either in the studio or on location. We don't always know when where it was shot, but yeah, it would have been a bit of both.
So that's how. So I've seen the what we work. We you sent us the file of all the references so that they can be searchable through source, and we're going to speak about it. And there were a couple gaps. So there's two missing files or books.
Books,
Ledger.
ledgers.
But for the rest, I think it's quite straightforward. If you see a 5-digit number, is it usually in pencil?
Yeah, it's usually in pencil on the back of the print. So the early ones from 1919,
Yeah.
5 digits, and then it goes into 6 digits. I don't know why they started at 5 digit. No idea.
Yeah.
But that's where it started.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, of course, over the years we've lost some. We've lost some to flooding. There was a major flood in one of the studios in Pollen Street in the 60s. So we lost up
Oh
there.
my
We
God.
we survived the Blitz. I mean, the studio just off Bond Street was suffered damage from the Blitz,
Yeah.
and the operations had been moved out of there for a period of time. And I think that was when Augustus was running the business, and it went to his property in Hendon, where he continued the operations from Hendon. Uh, and then when it was safe to come back, sort of relocated back into Bond Street, into Mayfair, and then again moved sometimes. So there's been a lot of movement of all the material. So unsurprisingly, it gets lost, misplaced, damaged, you know, irreparable, whatever. But I think on the whole, we've only lost a couple of ledgers,
So
unfortunately.
you are. I mean, a couple of ledgers is it's better than a lot more ledgers in the context
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
how much you have. Um, and you still take pictures. I mean, that's still you're still a photographer. You're taking pictures of artworks. Are these going to be are these being added to the same archive?
I mean,
Eventually, I understand because of GDPR and guidelines, these are not accessible to the public, but is the view that, in the right time, they will be added to the existing historic archive?
yeah. I mean, I think so, because I mean, basically, what happens is we commission to photograph something, and we photograph it, and in the old days we were doing it on film, so that the transparencies that we used to shoot, if anyone remembers those, that would be the film that was in the camera. So you'd load the back of the camera with a sheet of 5x4 inch or 10x8 inch film, shoot that would go to the client. So we kind of that's gone. So the client's
Yeah.
responsibility is to keep those. We never kept copies of those unless asked by our clients, of which we do have some. So to answer your question, it's the same sort of principle with digital, I suppose, where, we photograph something digitally now, send the file to the client whenever they need it for, it's high res or whatever. And obviously that's up to them to police that and do what they want with it. But we can't police what happens with that file because it could be replicated multiple times and sent to whoever,
Yeah.
but do keep a raw backup. So for obvious reasons, because what tends to happen is clients might convert it to a JPEG, send it to a client, and then obviously overwrite the TIFF file, and they've got nothing. So they come back to me in a few years' time and say, "Oh, have you still got that file of that painting or whatever, because we now need it for a book." And we go, "Well, I have, but I've got to find it." And, it's easier with digital if to track down because obviously only the last 20 years or so. But yeah, I mean, in answer to your question, yes, it does form part of the archive. Now, there is a copyright issue. There's client discretion, and I have to consider all those options, which is why when I first looked into the archive, I went right back to the beginning because all that material is so old now. And I'm trying to sort of understand the old stuff, but the more up to date stuff, I really have to be considerate of my client base.
Absolutely.
Customer, discretion is key. As time goes on, obviously, that becomes sort of easier to deal with. But what's copyright law is now 70 years to the photographer or the employee. Sorry, the
Hmm.
employer rather. Plus 70 years after their death.
Right.
If E.C. Cooper keeps going, copyright stays with the company, right?
Correct. Right. And then you transfer it, if you were to ever sell it, it would transfer then to the next owner.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So the next owner of the business, should there be one, would inherit all of it. And that's something I, will be looking at down the line, or perhaps something different will happen to the archive. I'm not entirely sure yet. This is kind of new territory for us, going in with Source to sort of try and encourage more awareness of
Yeah.
the archive, and really hoping it starts to do some good, because it's no good to anyone just sitting there doing nothing.
No, fair enough. And I think the more people are aware that something exists, it just pops in your mind whenever you need something because you just add it to the list of resources that you can access and that you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
track. So the way that we discuss that we are going to put the information in source is we're going to do the date. So the period, let's say January 1919 to July 1919, and then offer a reference as to what reference numbers are included in that year period. So if it is, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then any number in between technically would fall within that period that is listed. So is this the first time that the broader public will be aware of kind of the range and the references in there?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, as you know, I put together a sort of spreadsheet for you over Christmas to sort of try and get a comprehensive look at the ledgers and what periods they cover and what we're missing. So yeah, it's the first time that's been done, as far as I'm aware. To the extent that we've done it, I would like to go on from that and digitize the pages. But it's an awful
It's a
lot of
process.
work. It's a project. Yeah, it's a project. So if they were potentially made available online, people could research for themselves at some point, but that's
So it
something
was the first time that you put everything you have on a spreadsheet.
yeah,
Was there a spreadsheet that came when you bought the business that had any sort of reference as to the documentation?
not for the ledgers, no.
No.
No, it's just basically, boxes of ledgers that sort of, you go through. And although I think the printers of the time, because they generally relate to black and white, the printers at the time, I mean, bear in mind, we are a big company who had 40 employees at one point, 40 when I started. So it was pretty big, with multiple darkroom studios,
Hmm.
other studios, assistants, photographers, admin. We had lots and lots of staff. So they were numbered 1 through to whatever. But again, I had to go back, and so the early ones weren't numbered. So I had to go back and look at those individually. So the system that we've used relates to the manual system that was implemented the first time round.
Right.
That was the
Well,
only.
I know you were meaning to do it anyway. I'm happy I gave you the push to just get it done.
No, you did. Thank you. No, you really did. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Can I go back very briefly to your day-to-day job because I do find it fascinating.
Yeah.
And especially in art, I think, I mean, maybe because I've looked at so many catalogs throughout my life.
Yeah.
I can tell if a picture is a good picture of an artwork. And at
That's
other times, if I've seen the original, I'm like, that's a bit off. It doesn't
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
exactly look like that because color is just so important when it comes so defining when it comes to. So do you I'm sure that you have your own settings about color accuracy and but does it vary very much between different materials and genres of artwork or mediums?
Completely. Oh yeah, absolutely. There's an approach you take towards paintings, for example. There's a very different approach you take towards, say, sculpture or
Mhm.
jewelry, silver. Very, very different. Need to be able to turn your hand to anything, which I can. But it's always good to know what I'm going to be presented with. So when somebody sort of books me or gives me a brief, I like to know, well, is it 2 dimensional? Is it 3 dimensional? Is it a painting? What is it? Size, medium. So, is it silver? Is it gold? Is it stone? Is it an ancient work? Is it a work on paper? Is it an oil on canvas? All those sorts of things I need to sort of just to try and understand what I'm faced with.
Mm.
And then ultimately it's like, where are we doing this? How are we going to do this? So is it in a museum? Is it coming to the studio? Is it, have I got to go on location to shoot it? And if so, where? So all these things, and I can start to build a picture in my mind about what I'm about to do before I've even seen it. And then I can prepare the equipment and so on and myself. So you do need a bit of planning time, but yeah, there's a very different approach. So, and obviously you need to know if you are working a location that the place is fit for purpose that you're working in.
Is there anything that's particularly difficult to photograph?
I mean, yeah, there are. I mean, like you say, you can spot a bad photograph as reproduction of something, and you can spot the good ones. But it varies. I mean, these days we're now moving into more sort of audio visual sort of work. You might
Mm.
have contemporary installations with neon lights, etc. You might have, I don't know, sort of a huge scale artwork or a mural or whatever, and they're more can be more challenging, but then you're given the tiniest bit of Fabergé or something, those tiny little Fabergé animals with really intricate sort of carving in them and little tiny little diamonds for eyes. They are particularly difficult. So, it varies so much in the art world that you could be doing going from fine art to contemporary in the same day. So you have to kind of think, okay, how am I going to approach that? They're all challenging and they're all special in their own right, and you have to treat everything with individuality to say, you can't just sort of conveyor belt photograph things and say, well, there's 100 Fabergé animals and all the same. They're not. They really aren't. And it's the same with anything that we do. You get sort of 10 paintings. They could range in size. It could range in age.
Yeah.
Medium. The icons that are painted on panels with gold in them, for example. They're extremely difficult to photograph to get the gold to show and then retain the sort of the color of the painting. You've got the bowed panel which reflects light. So there's all those things that complexities that I have to sort of deal with.
Do you have something that's your absolute favorite thing that you've ever photographed?
Good question. I've been fortunate enough to handle some wonderful, amazing, unique works of art. I suppose I don't know really. I mean, I was privileged enough to photograph the dispatch boxes in the House of Parliament. That was quite special.
Mm.
Where the politicians stand and sort of juggle it out in the House of Commons. That was pretty special. I had to photograph in situ, so I had to go into at sort of 6:30 in the morning and photograph them before things started. Tours coming through, and ironically, there was a Japanese television company there before me. I thought I was going to get in first, but they're already there, so I didn't have much time. But I managed to get those done. They couldn't be moved. They're fixed, and they're fixed down. They can't be moved. So yeah, that was pretty amazing. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things. So from paintings through to sculpture. I really enjoy photographing sculpture because that work you work with the light more with that to create some an expression or a softness or an edge to it that can be overlooked. So they're always quite pleasing to work with, actually.
Would you say that most of your client base still to this day is the art market or the
Yeah.
art world? Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we've dabbled over the years with various sessions with different things, but I'm more focused on what I do best, which is art, which is art photography. That's what I do. I mean, we do portraits as well. So over the years, I've photographed. I sort of fell into that. We used to photograph maybe an art dealer with a particular work of art. But in fact, Augustus Cooper, that's how he started. And if you go to the National Portrait Gallery, there are images in there that he photographed of various artists.
Oh, great.
Um, in National Portrait Gallery. Yeah, so that's how he kind of got started, in fact. And he did also photograph Winston Churchill for a bust that was made by, oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the sculptor now, but there is a bust, so he had to go into 10 Downing Street and photograph them. So we've done things like that, you know. I photographed dignitaries and VIPs as well.
Do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy photographing people as opposed to as a
It's a very different thing. I mean, the artwork doesn't move for a start. It just stays still. So you can just get on with it. But yeah, with people are people aren't really designed to be models. I've worked with professional models as well. And there's a big difference. Professional models just know what to do.
yeah.
You know, I've worked with the Royals as well, as you know, I have a royal warrant. So I've worked with the Royals. They know what to do. They know how
Yeah.
to. Then you're given, you might work, I don't know, a solicitor, a lawyer or something completely different, you know, completely different. You got to put them at ease. And
The set of instructions is very different for photography if you're a lawyer than if you're a royal. So I can see that.
very much so, very much so.
And did you say that also the people who come to you for while they're doing research, they are also the art market?
Yeah, but generally it's archivists, students, authors who might be trying to just, you know, sort of publish a book and they just need an image or information on that image. Quite often it's the image they need. We can't really help with that. We try if it's around. I mean, we know there are many of our images out there. There's so many that are in like the National Portrait Gallery, the Whit Library, as you said, the Frick Art Collection have, I think, over 10,000
Mm.
um, were bought via auction houses. We'd sell them off in the old days. They were sold off through auction. Piles of negatives were sold off in the 20s and 30s.
Right.
They appear everywhere. I think the Court Hold has some. So we try and point people in the right direction. You know, it's so yeah. That most people that come to us, I think all of them work in the art trade one way or another.
Yeah. Interesting. And would you say that so when you say that the negatives that were sold, were they duplicates or were they originals?
There have been originals, which is how I think the Frick ended up with so many. Lady Frick was in the market for buying up photographs, and they have digitized that collection. So there is, if you go to the Frick Art Resource Library or FARL, ARL, you'll find a lot of those images were ours, made by the company. Now they're within their sort of archive. As you say, you've got the National Portrait Gallery also have a load, the Whit Library have a load, the Royal Institute of British Architects have a load, I think the Royal Photographic Society have a load. So they are out there, you know, and just going back to searching, when people are searching for, if they haven't got a print with a number on the back, quite often if you go into those archives and can find them, quite often whoever's sort of put the information in has included the negative number. So it's quite often in the metadata.
You'll find it.
Hopefully, and if you do, then you know we can help.
Do most people who come to you for help have already the reference number, you'd say?
Very few, very
Very
few.
few.
Yeah. We have to sort of try and point them in that direction. Most people will, as I say, I've seen this published in a book, and it says, you know, the acknowledgement is to A.C. Cooper. You know, can I have a copy, please? I'm like,
Right,
well, we can't just reproduce it from that. I mean, your best bet is to just to rescan it if that's what you want to do from the book.
right.
So you need permission to do that. But most people don't have the number, which has been the frustrating part of all of this right from the start, because the archive was never really intended to be an archive. It's just material. So, but what I've done is I realized quite early on that actually this material is important and it needs to be archived. So,
Mm.
so we're trying to just make that happen, you know, so that this material is available somehow in whatever form that might be. And that's been the real difficult project for me over the years, because there's no funding, you know, institutions don't think it's worth anything. We are a limited business, therefore we can pay for it ourselves, all that sort of stuff. That was the kind of rhetoric I was getting. So, well, that's, you know, that's not really helping. We need to get his stuff out there.
No, for sure. But are you able to license pictures out if an author were to come to you because they're writing a book and they would like to include one of the pictures in their book that A.C. Cooper has photographed? Would you be able to license that image to them?
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. We could do that. And we have done that. It depends if it's in copyright or not. And also, you know, ownership. Yeah, we have done that in the past. I had conversations with people at the Royal Photographic Society who advised me on that, and they said absolutely, you should be, because the only way you can sort of do anything with this archive is to make it pay for itself. You have to try and make it sort of keep its worth by just trying to create revenue to keep it.
Right.
And you may not make profit out of it, but at least you'll get to keep it. And I'm like, well, that's what we're going to try and do. So,
Mm.
that's exactly what we try to do. But it's difficult when you don't know what you're looking for. If someone says, I want to license this image, and I go, okay, well, where is it? And they go, well, I don't know. It was in this book. So I go, okay, well, it could have been photographed any time between 1920 and 2026. So I have
Yeah.
to sort of figure that out, which sometimes bears fruit and sometimes it just doesn't.
It's quite interesting because obviously, I think when you bought the business, you weren't necessarily thinking that you are going to end up as a keeper of this, what
That's
we
right.
call now as an archive that is so useful to so many people. It was just considered business records when you got it. Of the previous business, these are business records, which is
Mm.
what a lot of ledgers are.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just which is fascinating how times have changed in a way. I mean, this is, as researchers, this kind of information is really vital to our work. The fact that you answered my email and gave me that information allowed me to actually complete that research case because I was able to take it as far back as I needed to take it.
That's perfect.
So otherwise, it would have been rather difficult to, maybe not impossible, but again, it would have been a lot more challenging to get to that result, which is why, and we spoke about source in length when we met. It is very much something that I needed to put together because I need to use. And we've had so many research cases around throughout the years where either you cannot go on location or you cannot afford to travel 10 times in 2 weeks, or we have children, there's COVID, so it is not as easy to just hop on a plane for research, and it's very costly to the client. I mean, if you start factoring in like accommodation and expenses and trip cost and then time spent, it makes research be a very expensive undertaking. Whereas if you have a way to access material with local people, they are 10 out of 10 times going to be more efficient than a visiting researcher. And
Yeah.
even if, let's say, you made your collection, your archive public tomorrow, and I could access it physically, it could take me upwards to a day or more to figure out if that one thing I'm looking for, where it might be. And
Yes.
there's something to be said about, what is the most efficient way to get something done. And the most efficient way is to actually ask the person who's the most familiar with the material to
Yeah,
either
yeah.
look for you or to help you look through it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's like somebody coming to my house and trying to figure out, where one of my
Where's the
favorite
phone charge?
books is. I mean, it will take them a day. There's hundreds of books here.
Yeah, 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 you're right. And sort of this has really opened my eyes to obviously other things that we also have. There's the number of published books that we have that were part of the deal. We photographed something for a collection and we were given a book, and we've got those things, those sort of they're quite unique things sometimes, limited edition printed books and stuff like that. And you think, this is really important. And it's just gathering dust, right? So what do we do with it? Do we get out there for people to sort of utilize that information for the benefit of the greater good? I think we should. As I say, but the only thing I have to be very mindful of is client discretion, because as you know, the art industry can be quite fickle,
Yeah, absolutely.
but also they want your help. So you can't, you're in a sort of between a rock and a hard place, that that when specialists are researching the provenance of a painting, for example, it puts value on the painting. So why wouldn't you want this information? What's the point in keeping it so close?
Yes. I mean, I do not get me started, Andrew. Because
Uh,
we are going to keep this conversation about you and not about the overall
okay,
state
fine.
of secrecy of the art market. Look, and it's no secret. I've been complaining about this for very long, that I think there should be a middle ground where professional researchers and the trade find working agreements that, do not violate client discretion, do not break the law. But there should be a way where there's a more practical approach to wanting to verify information. It is
Yes.
impossible to verify information or to assess any risk associated with provenance if you read things like Private Collection Switzerland.
Yeah.
And it's very funny. A few years ago, I reached out to one of the auction houses and on the painting that sold that you'd probably photographed and that you actually did photograph, but it's still within, yes. And you told me that the client was actually the auction house, so you had nothing more.
That's right.
And I reached to the auction house and I said, if you could please help me out. I mean, I'm happy to sign an NDA. I'm not going to reveal the name of the consignor to the client. They don't need to know as long as, I take on the responsibility of I've checked. And, we have professional indemnity insurance. So as long as I can confirm that I've checked, I don't need to disclose it. The burden of responsibility stays with me if there's
Yeah.
ever an issue. And I was like, it only says private collection. Like, can you please help me narrow it
Yeah.
down just a little bit? And they're like, okay, only because it's you, we're going to tell you that it's private collection Switzerland. I'm like, you've just made it worse. To go to my client and say, the thing we have no idea about, that's just a private collection. It's actually a private collection from Switzerland, which is, notoriously
Yeah.
hard to get information from, where a lot of looted art went through.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I appreciate the sentiment, but to
Yeah.
really too much for that.
It's true to say that auction houses keep their cards close to their chest, and I get that. But then when I look through the legend, I see names like Wildenstein and Spielman and all these major dealers, Tooth and Son, these major dealers that were, prolific in through London through those sort of certain times. They're not there anymore. They're not around. Fine Art Society, they kind of come back. There's a whole load of stuff that doesn't exist anymore. Blewett and Son was another auctioneer that specialised in Chinese works of art. Surely there's an argument to say, well, hang on, what difference does it make? Why can't we provide information to say that this went through Spielman or Wildenstein or whatever? That's it. We don't know anymore. I can't give out names and addresses of people. I don't necessarily know, don't have that information, but I do know the galleries that might have handled it at that particular work in 1953 or 1939 or whatever. Now, surely there's a massive debate for that to say, look, this is important information that helps secure the provenance of a thing.
Yeah. Do you find that with if somebody were to reach out to you, just the title of a painting without them sending you a picture or a reference, do you have titles?
No, not particularly. Interestingly, the very early stuff, like the 1920s in the ledgers, that it does often have that description. But we were doing so fewer things then, and I think what happened, we weren't always given information because we're just merely photographers who photograph works of art. So we weren't given that information by the client, again because of discretion and you know um, customer
Mm.
confidentiality. But sometimes you have got information, and when we did have that information, certainly with the digital era, I would input it. I mean, there was a period of time said to staff, right, okay, I want you to put measurements in to the metadata. I want you to put any information you've got. So we would at least measure the picture, or we might
Right.
rough description in the metadata, the keywords, because that was always important actually, and I think it was overlooked a lot when excuse me, when we were photographing things on film, because people come back and ask reproductions of things. Oh, I want an actual size reproduction of that painting. You do it. I'm like, sure. What are the dimensions? Oh, we don't have it anymore. Interestingly, I have it in the metadata because I've kept it. So no, then you can help people. And it's all about trying to help people in the future. It's basically forward thinking to say, we've got the information. Don't worry. It's written in the keywords metadata. So, and we might put in there the title of it if we're aware of what it is. But quite often you just hand in a canvas, photograph
Yeah.
that. You think, could it be still of? Is it by them? You can't speculate. You have to get it right. So unfortunately, no. If someone does give me a title, I can't necessarily just magic that out of the air. I need more than that, unless it's the Mona Lisa or something like that.
Something rather obvious. Did you ever photograph the Mona Lisa?
No, unfortunately
No,
not.
not
Unfortunately
yet.
not. Not yet.
Did you ever photograph any versions of it?
No, no, no,
No.
no, no. I don't. No, I haven't. I need to sort that out, don't I?
Did you photograph the latest Da Vinci, the Salvador Mundi?
No, that went through. That went through Christie's, didn't it? That was a guy I know, a professional photographer at Christie's, who I know very well, very good colleague of mine,
Okay.
and he photographed it. Yeah, he's the man. He's top of his game. He photographs all the paintings.
Nice.
he did that one. But I am aware of it, and I have done some very nice Monets and some very nice Magrittes and Picassos, and yeah, some very nice things, and old masters too, Rembrandts.
It's nice to spend time with the artwork, especially if you get to do it in a private setting. Very often, after we've done a research or then we have to meet the client, we get to spend half an hour or 45 minutes just looking at the artwork.
It's a
Or
real privilege.
it's my favorite part of the job
Yeah,
because if you're in a museum environment or a gallery, you're not alone. There's people. You're constantly being ushered away so that people can take a picture of
yeah,
thing that already exists as a picture on the internet.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
The way we look at art has really changed, but it's priceless to just be in a room and it's just you and you can look at this amazing thing that you might have spent weeks or months researching, sometimes years.
yeah, yeah,
And there it is, and you get to just take it all in. I love that. It's my favorite part of the job after,
yeah,
after the
yeah.
bit.
I
You
agree.
were you were one of the first institutions that I reached out to once Source was getting, we are doing our beta testing and we're ready to go to market. And you were really excited about it. And it's really helpful because I'm not from a tech background and I've had this idea for Source for over a decade.
Okay, wow.
I just kept hoping that someone who already is more tech savvy, who has more resources, would just, get on with it and just do it for me so I didn't have to do it,
Yeah, sounds about
which has been great. But last year, I thought, I think I have been pondering this enough.
yeah,
And I know from my colleagues and researcher network that this is not access to archives and physical information that is geographically distant or inaccessible to people due to language or whatever barrier. It's not just an issue I have. And while researchers have the issue of how do I access something, people like yourself who have valuable collections and are not necessarily, marketing geniuses or people who are going to go out and sell archival, the appeal of an archive. There's a two-sided problem because none of our primary jobs is just selling that kind of access.
true.
We either have things, and I mean, my business partner has around over 2,000 books in his house, and they are all art market books. Sometimes when something's out of print, I just ring and I'm like, Tom, do you have this book?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and
that's it.
the time he does. I mean, and he's just the most knowledgeable person I know about the art markets. I always go to him. He's sort of like my living idea of Google. I don't need to Google this. Tom will know this off the top of his head, which is, it's a blessing to have a business partner that just knows. Like we have very different skill sets. I mean, it's what Tom's brain is absolutely like an. I wish I could just take all his brain and put it on Source.
Yeah, it's so true. We need people like that. We really do.
Yes, and we need to, and I was telling people the idea of why I want to build Source, and they're like, who's going to use it? I'm like, a lot of people are going to use it. Just because the average person who's not involved in research or academia or, any sort of this type of inquiries, they can't really imagine that this stuff is not online, that is not available on,
Yeah, yeah,
that Grok cannot tell you, or, ChatGPT cannot tell you. And it's very valuable at the time when, everyone is trying to make everything faster and use AI. Not
yeah,
everything needs to happen faster. And not everything needs to go through an artificial intelligence program. I think combined, we have enough intelligence to sort things out on
yeah,
paper without computers.
yeah,
It's an essential part of the process. I mean, even though it was actual physical research that led me to you.
yeah,
I would
yeah.
have
That's
never chose that information on my desktop. So it's, yes, you need to go look for things. It's not a passive job being a researcher or an academic. It's a very active pursuit of trying to get to information. As I've told you, I mean, I've had research cases that I've been working on for the past 13 years. Ever since I started, there's things that have never been solved. And it's because I just cannot afford to travel the world for research that's not paid.
Yeah, no, that's basically it. I think we're just undervalued in so many ways. But if you look at like what the British Museum have done, they sort of kickstarted it with digitization project, and that's just evolution. That's they've got all this stuff photographed, and they've got warehouses full of boxes of transparency and things, but they're not doing anything with them. So what do? They re-photograph it all digitally, and they make that accessible to anyone who wants to find it. And that's what we should be doing. And we can't
Uh,
just leave it to museums to do it, because there's so many other archives out there in private hands that could add.
Absolutely. And even, I mean, the main concern is not on big national archives, because obviously digitization processes there have come a long way,
Yeah.
even though the goal is never to digitize everything.
Yeah.
But there's so many smaller archives, private collections, like special collections that will never be photographed, will never be archived. And as a result, no trace of them exists digitally. There's no way any supercomputer can recreate what it holds. It doesn't know. It's going to guess, it's going to hallucinate, it's going to try and give you an answer. But as any researcher will tell you, we don't speculate in research. You can't, you need the hard facts and then you can interpret. But speculation is not really part of the process, which is why we don't encourage anyone to use, AI for research. So you, by the time that this airs, which will be soon, the A.C. Cooper, shall we call it the Photographic Archive Ledger? The Photographic Archive Reference?
Yeah, maybe. Photographic, yeah. I mean, it's like A.C. Cooper Art Reference Library or something like that.
Yeah, which I think is a very apt description.
Yeah.
Will be on the app. We are going to do a post on our Substack where we give research guidance to anyone dealing with the material. So from how to interpret the physical information they might have, to what's available, to what isn't, to how to look for it.
Got you. Yeah.
What to expect, what not to expect, and stuff.
Okay.
And then, yeah, we'll take it from there. We'll see. I'm very excited to let a lot of people know about where to find you. Our newsletter is over 2,000 people.
Good start, isn't it?
Yeah, and most of which are already art world people. I mean, it's been quite fascinating. We've only been up for just about 3 weeks on Source, close to 4 weeks now, and there's around 150 users on the app, and close to 1,400 resources listed.
Amazing.
And they are a combination of private holdings that people have, whether they're books or catalogs, and places they have access to around the world, whether they're archives, libraries, university libraries, local archives, private archives that are not open to the public. So we are in almost all continents. Obviously, having 1 or 2 people in a continent is not much.
It's a start.
But it's a good start. So on the back end, we have this world map, and every time somebody from a new part of the world signs up, that part of the world lights up.
Yeah, like a beacon.
I have to tell you, Andrew, I stare at that map way too much. I stare at it like people look at the stock market or something.
You're very passionate about it. It's good.
My husband says it's your new baby monitor. Like, I'm always just like looking at it.
Obsessed.
But I am really passionate about it, and I'm really excited because I've used it already. I've used it to get information out of 2 other countries so far, and it worked great. People, just read what I posted, like what I was looking to trace, and I made an offer, a range as to what the budget was for the research, and people claimed it, and they made a bid within that. They don't have to if they are not willing to do it for the price, but someone's like, oh, I'm going to be there tomorrow anyway, I can get that for you.
Perfect.
And it was great. So it was the first job that went through. I think it was one of my happiest days that I can recall.
It worked. It really worked.
It's just proof of concept. Like, we had done a lot of testing before it went live. And, friends and family members, I made them all scan books and upload things, so to see if the job process worked. But having people that have never interacted to the app just interact with each other and make it happen, it was really, really exciting.
Well done you. I think it's a fantastic thing. What an achievement after 10 years in the making, or whatever it is that you've got. I know.
I do count the conception time as the time it's been in the making, though I haven't been doing much about it in the first 9 years.
Don't worry about it. It's taken me 20 something years, 23 years to get to this point. So
well, here we are.
Keep going.
Here we are. Thank you for coming on the call. Thank you for being, it's really, really, I'm really grateful.
My pleasure.
Your vote of confidence from the very beginning was like really encouraging. Like, it gave me a real boost.
That's good. That's good.
So I'm
Yeah, we
very
got to do it.
excited to have you on board. And yeah, let's see what happens.
Thank you, Angelina. Yes, it's been a delight. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. Thank you for joining, Andrew. Have the best day.
Bye.
Bye.